My jacket's on. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog, not from sunny Los Angeles anymore. I'm certainly back in the Northeast, live from Washington, D.C., here with Lucky Locks MMA or Lucky Locks picks to break down the LFA 120 card taking place this Friday on UFC Fight Pass or wherever else you are able to catch these fights at. But they're going down Friday night, along with the Cage Warriors 131 fights that are going to be going down probably a little bit before this. So it's a good little doubleheader on Friday to lead into 269. Got the Cage Warriors breakdown on the channel already with Lewis of Norton MMA. But without further ado, how you doing, Lucky?
Doing good. We got a big weekend, as you mentioned. We got Cage Warriors, LFA, we got UFC, really good UFC card on Saturday. So excited to get into it, see what we can do on some LFA 120.
Yep, and I'll be breaking down the UFC tonight in about 4 hours with Bunny, Boston Comments herself. So it should be a good time as always. Got the dogs around me, so they'll be, hopefully able to behave for our little fight card here. But we do have a flyweight title fight to cover here between Mayra Cantuária and Jamey-Lyn Horth Wessels, which was should be a good fight overall. This probably not one of the more explosive LFAs, I guess. I don't know how to really describe it. This is more a throwback LFA, if you will. Kind of a few more prospects like 3-1s, a couple of 0-0s, and Royce White of formerly of the NBA making his long-awaited NBA debut. Former Iowa State Cyclone. We'll talk about that as we get into it. But yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on throwback LFA card, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we've been blessed with a bunch of pretty star-studded LFA cards lately, some pretty big prospects that have been coming through. And yeah, eventually, I mean, you're going to run out of those banger cards when that's the way that you choose to book them. So still especially a good one here. Should have some good fights and maybe a bit of a sleeper card this Friday.
Yeah, there we go. That's the much nicer way of looking at it. And yeah, and frankly, fights are fights. I get excited for all of these. And as I dug into them, I have found them pretty intriguing. And we got the odds available. Odds just dropped for Cage Warriors for me, so got my bets in there. But we'll go ahead and jump in here. We got 5 fights. We're just going to do the main card here. Basically, I only do the main cards with LFAs for the most part. Yeah, we'll get into it. You can hear the dogs in the background. I apologize. Busy time of the year. So good time, though. We will be starting at featherweight here with pretty decent matchup, actually, to start out the card, main card, 2, 3-1 guys, and Felipe Martinez. He just goes as Felipe Martinez usually, but he's as Adonis here on Tapology, taking on Henry Huff. This is not a bad matchup at all. Should be pretty. Should I be finished at some point here, though, by one of these guys, either submission or a knockout, obviously. But with the submission, it's Henry Huff. I think that has the slightly better chance with that, fighting Indiana here with Team Colin. Not really familiar with a Team Colin MMA. 5'7", weighed in last fight at 139, but nearly 31 years old. He lost his last fight out, and pretty rough knockout against Joel Vasquez, only a 1-0 fighter. Was able to watch that fight. Definitely a well-conditioned guy before that. Was able to fight in April of this year. Got a nice guillotine in the 3rd round. Back and forth fight there, though, I'll be honest. And next to no striking on Henry Huff. So I apologize for the dog in the background. But yeah, 3-0, 3-0 or 3-1, 1-2 submissions. He doesn't have much of strikes, if any, as an amateur. A couple rear naked chokes. Basically a straight grappler here. Throws some naked leg kicks. Was put out pretty cleanly by Joel Vasquez. Felipe Definitely has power in his hands. Good boxing here. Has a okay wrestling top game. Also looks like he keeps himself minus the P's and Q's, and lost to a good guy in Angel Pacheco in LFA back in 2020 February. Has rattled off 3 finishes in his 3 wins, 1 knockout, 2 submissions. The knockout of Andrew Freelove was very impressive. Nice, clean right hand. Good left as well. He's kind of a little stockier, more powerful looking featherweight. I think he should be able to have his way with Huff here. Pretty confident on Jose Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez.
Or Felipe.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Felipe. He had a good 7-0 amateur run before turning pro. And like you said, that loss to Angel Pacheco, that's not too bad. He's a pretty decent fighter. And yeah, I like Martinez. He's, he comes out decently aggressive. He's a pretty good striker. Like you mentioned, the boxing's pretty good and has that wrestling base, like the high school wrestling. And I think Huff is a guy who is probably going to want to grapple here. He's more of a submission guy. And in a matchup where I think that's going to be the case, I mean, I like Martinez. I kind of like his upside on the feet. And then I think his top game is going to be good enough to avoid a lot of those trickier positions on the ground. So, yeah, I like Martinez here as well. Like his wrestling, like his physicality, a thick, physically strong guy. I like his chances to win here.
Yeah, and I always do LFA tape before looking at the odds, and I figured looking at the odds, it'd be minus 400 or so. At least it's at minus 215. Currently plus 170 on Huff. I think that's very comfortable to put in a parlay and bet on. Myself personally, I think it's going to be a lot of favorites this upcoming weekend, perhaps, and this is one of the ones I'm more confident in than others. So. Yep, we're both on Felipe Martinez here, playing a tape on both the guys, which was nice as always. But next fight, 1-0 versus 0-0. I'll give you a guess on how much tape there was. Not a whole lot on either one. Olivia, let me get this name right. Biscow taking on Rachel Martinez here. Olivia Biscow, the one who is 1-0, 5-3 out of Ironworks. In La Crosse, Wisconsin, 5'3". That's about all I got. Taking on the 30-year-old fighter out of Illinois, 5'2", Midwest Training Center representative Rachel Martinez. Rachel Martinez has a good amateur record, 5-1. Ended it with a slam, so definitely as a wrestler, you can see the one fight of hers that was available was against Paris Miki. Both her fights with Paris Miki, actually. So you're able to see a knockout where she was wearing a wrestling singlet, which was odd. But, got the knockout in that fight and then got a decision. So she's a wrestler with some good hands for the most part. Just definitely, I think, coming into this fight, expected to kind of be I think, more powerful fighter here, the more looking for the top game. But she's taking on Olivia Ray Biscow, who's 5-0 or won her last 5, including her amateur record, which started with a loss, but then has rattled off 4 straight amateur wins before going pro earlier this year in September, getting the decision over an 0-6 Amanda Lovato. So, yes, she's gotten a pro fight, but essentially this is a pro debut versus a pro debut in a lot of ways. I expect Rachel Martinez to be able to just wrestle, and maybe the power is the difference, maybe get a finish, but Rachel Martinez should cruise here.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just agree with everything you said. Biscow, technically the more experienced pro with 1, but I mean, it was an 0-6 opponent, 4-1 amateur career. None of those women that she fought in the amateur scene had a winning record either. Martinez training at a Midwest Training Center, making her pro debut, 5-1 amateur career, just finished her last amateur fight with a slam in round 1 against a 5-0 amateur opponent, main event of the card. Pretty nice way to transition into the pro scene. So, yeah, I like Martinez to win. I probably looked into this fight the least out of all of them. And, I agree she should be a favorite. And I don't think I'm going to have a play here because this type of low-level fight is really where anything.
Yeah, I'm a little Martinez parlay to start out the night.
I think it's going to hit, but
I'm going to play it. Martinez double up to get the even money, hopefully. They're both at about minus 240 right now, which I expect both prices to skyrocket as soon as this becomes available, frankly. in most books. So get it quick. Martinez double up. That's from me, not from Lucky. He's going to be smart and actually just invest his money in maybe a proven fighter. What a concept, but why not start out the night hopefully right there. It's such an interesting start to the night because here we arrive at the debut of Royce White of Iowa State Cyclones. I definitely knew about him because his kind of mental health issues that got into the news. He used to refuse to fly because of it, and he was a first-round pick in the NBA. Never played. I don't think he ever played a second in an NBA game. Either way, like very, very talented, very athletic guy. This is a heavyweight fight, by the way, against Daquan Buckley. Daquan Buckley has the dreaded Ken Norris or Chuck Norris double guns because there's no picture of Daquan Buckley here. But he's 25 years old, weighed in at 237, 5'10", and 5'10". So we got 5'10" versus 6'8". Right off the bat. That's going to definitely stick out at the weigh-ins. Royce White is 30 years old now, taking on the 25-year-old Daquan Buckley, who does have very, very lengthy amateur experience of 2 fights, 1-1, has not fought since 2017, had an amateur fight in 2020, canceled, but does have a submission win in his one win, lost a split decision in his other fight. So he does have experience. Royce White, go to his Tapology page. This is his experience. It's a picture from a YouTube hype video, which you can watch. That's a minute long. That's about what you're going to find here. No experience. 2 years ago, he had an interview with Ariel Helwani where when he was asked what his martial arts experience was, he said enough. He had enough, which then Ariel asked if he had any training as a kid. He said no. So picked this up kind of late. Spent the last 2 years preparing for his pro debut, I guess. Not really sure what else to say other than I'm going to bet on the guy who's fought and has a submission fight, submission on his win record. It's going to be a huge height disadvantage, probably a size disadvantage, but Daquan Buckley I'll take, even though he's been off for about 5 years.
Yeah, this is definitely like something off a Triller Fight Club card right here. We got
this is
former
wild.
NBA/Big Three basketball player, and man, he was good as an Iowa State Cyclone. He was a nasty college player. But we're here to talk about an MMA fight, right? We're not talking about a basketball game, and he's pretty much never officially competed in MMA as far as we can see. 30 years old, so he's picking it up at 28. Might be a little bit late, but I mean, he's got a pro fight booked, so something's worked. Got to give him a little credit. Appears to have taken his time. He was talking about this for 2 years, so he didn't just jump right in. He took some time to kind of get a base, but I don't know if that's going to be long enough. He's 6'8", so I'm assuming he'll have size in terms of reach here. He'll definitely be taller, but he will be small. Yeah, there's pretty much not that much tape on this guy, other than like the hype video that you mentioned. Buckley, former college football player, first competed as an amateur in 2016. So if we're assuming that he started training before his first fight, he's been training for a little while longer than Royce White has. And he was actually supposed to be competing for an amateur title in 2020. The fight got scrapped. That was supposed to be at super heavyweight. He said that he kind of had taken a break from training and put on some weight. But looks like he's got it under control now, back at the 265-pound limit. And he's 25 years old, so he kind of was picking this stuff up at an age where it's easier to learn and make improvements. And he's just been doing it longer. I like that he's fought before, 5 years younger, been training longer. Actually able to find a clip of him in a real fight on YouTube.
The only fight with Royce White is fighting Josh Smith over a technical foul where it wasn't a fight. And Royce had a broken nose in the video. So he was wearing the mask.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably a fight that you shouldn't bet, but here I am. I have a bet on it. I played Buckley plus 180. I just don't know why someone making their MMA debut at age 30 should be minus 220. Just the line doesn't make sense to me. So,
I took a shot. I played my role as an MMA bettor, betting on MMA against, I mean, just when I'm not exactly sure where Royce White is at with his mental health issues also, and that's kind of, in all seriousness, not something I'll speculate on, I guess, but a concern in something in MMA that is so mentally taxing and so much of you and where your kind of head's at. And it's just, I mean, I would have liked to see an amateur fight. I would have liked to see him maybe fight on the prelims of an LFA. He's on a main card. I think he's going to be aware of the pressure. If this fight card is to get any eyes, it's going to be because of him. So, by a general audience, I'm saying. So these are all just things. Yeah, I'm going to take a shot here with you. We're on Buckley. It's not a dunk contest. It is a fight. We'll move on to the next fight here. This is a tremendous fight at 125. I think this is a really good fight. And whoever wins this, we're going to be seeing on the Contender Series or beyond, in my opinion. Tony Laramie of the Laramie brothers, the younger of the Laramie brothers. TJ Laramie obviously got to the UFC a little bit too quick, so I wonder if that'll play a role in kind of Tony's progression here. Taking on Tyus White, a guy I've really enjoyed getting to watch some tape on as we've for this week, for sure. 24 years old versus 22, nearly 23 years old. It's two really young prospects here. Something that stuck out right away, the 5'2" versus the 5'9". Tyus, a very long, lengthy, kind of looks like Justin Brookins kind of looking guy, but hopefully fights much better than he ended up being. But 4-0 here for Tyus, 5'9", as I said, 24 years old, Pure Vita, BJ MMA. We've seen Pure Vita really kind of coming on lately for LFA. You see a lot of Pure Vita guys showing out, but 8 straight wins going back to his amateur career, which definitely like that, undefeated as an amateur, with 1 submission win, and then as a pro, ended up showing off the punches in his debut. But good striker, good grappler. He's really lengthy, can get to the back from some odd angles, long arms for the triangle choke as he did, but hasn't faced a crazy level of competition yet. Was getting ready to face Jeff Jepson back in September. That would have been a really great fight. I really enjoy watching Jeff Jepson quite a bit, and I think that would have been a good test for him. Would have told us a lot more about him. But he's looked good against guys who are 2-13, 3-9. His last fight was against a 2-2 fighter, and he went to a decision. That was in June of last year. So, but he does look very, very. He looks very unorthodox. Looks difficult to prepare for in this division. Long punches, good grappling. Also, I really do think he looks like he has a lot of potential here. Going up against Tony Laramie, who's used to being the smaller guy all the time. Even though he fights at 125, he looks so small. He's 5'2", but built really, really solidly. So it's going to be two very, very differently built flyweights here. Training on Maximum Training Center. He's won his last 3. I remember watching his debut against Keith Lee back in the day on, I believe it was TKO. And that was a really good fight, actually. Both guys, I thought, showed a lot of promise, but Tony looked really good in that one. Yeah, it was with TKO. Went 2-0 before dropping a couple of the really good guys in Luis Jourdain, which is, we all know Charles Jourdain. So, and then Jordan Graham, very good guys, actually, and lost by injury in the second one. So, he's rattled off 2 straight against decent guys. Darren Mima is 10-8, but both, and then Claudio Ledesma, very good fighter who's 5-1 in his last 6. Both guys a little bit older could be a critique, but still really good experience, stepping up at the right level, I feel like, for Laramie. And I just love Tyus, so I'm really eager to see how he does, but I think Tony's doing it the right way here, and I do think that the frame's going to work against one of these guys. It's going to be fought at one of their distances. It's not possible for it to be fought at both their distances. So unless, Tyus is able to have some slick kind of groundwork, I do think he's going to end up on his back from Tony. And I think Tony takes the decision here. I just think Tony's a more complete fighter at this point. I think this could be a fight This could be a fight of the night, though. It's really good. I really like what I've seen on Tyus. I just don't like the level I've seen it against. And I think Laramie's really taking the right steps up at the right time. 22 versus 24, though. Both guys are going to look better and better with each fight, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point about the level of competition. I mean, Tony Laramie in his last fight beats Claudio Ledesma, and that's a guy who had 24 pro fights at the time, fought in CFFC for a long time, fought on Bellator. He fought Aljamain Sterling. He fought Brian Kelleher, Jimmy Rivera. Like, this is a seasoned guy. The guy he fought right before fighting Tony was Juan Puerta. So the guy had good experience. That was a big win for Tony. Like, it's pretty impressive, honestly, and that was for the PFC 125-pound belt. And leading up to this fight, he's been in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture, living with Cody Stamen, was training with Manel Kopp, said he got some work in with Aljamain Sterling as well. So really good experience. I just really like the, like you said, the build up and the way that he's going about it. I think that this is going to be a good spot for him. You brought up, he's 5'2", so there'll be a size disadvantage, but he's used to that. White, on the other hand, Tyus White, also a good-looking prospect, turns pro in 2019 after an undefeated amateur career, 4-0 as a pro, 3 finishes, and he's a 5'9" flyweight, which is pretty tall at the weight class as it is. It's going to be even more pronounced against a 5'2" opponent in Tony Laramie, but just in terms of competition, he really hasn't challenged himself in the same way that Tony has. He's not training out at Extreme Couture with the same type of guys that Tony is. And White hasn't fought anyone with a winning record. He opened up actually as a minus 300 favorite here. Then kind of kept going down, and now he's a straight up underdog. Most recently fought Dylan Cox, was 2-2. That was the first time he went the distance as a pro. So, nice to get that experience under his belt. Good wrestler, Wisconsin state champ in high school, had some success in community and technical college. And he used the wrestling well. It's going to be good for him to have the size that he has for the wrestling just going forward in the weight class as he progresses. But yeah, I think I got to go with Laramie here. I think that if you got him early as a dog, you made a really good bet. There could be a little bit of value now as the underdog on Tyus just because of the size and the wrestling upside. But prediction standpoint, I'm going to go with Tony Laramie to get this one done.
Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe people just get soured from TJ Laramie against Derek Minner and they just flame it on Tony here, and maybe we can get him back at an underdog. But minus 165, I still am comfortable betting him at. I just think that training with guys like Cody Stamen, it's that is exactly who he's wanting to replicate. Period. His body type, his fighting style, that is there's nothing wrong with it at all there. So really intriguing fight, though. I think it really could be fight of the night. So a really good one there. And as much as I kind of poo-pooed this card, when you really dig into it, there's not a bad fight on here besides maybe the Royce White fiasco. So next fight, though, 185. It's the co-main event. Bruno Asis taking on Jalen Fuller. Everybody who's listened to my previous breakdown knows I'm a big Jalen Fuller fan. Even if he missed weight by 8 pounds in his last fight, it's too bad because that was an awesome fight with Vines. But it is kind of soured when you miss weight by that amount. It's like, well, don't really get any credit for it here, but he's moving on up. He's at middleweight now, should have no problem with the weight. And I think he should be able to still be a good size. He's 6'2". I think he's going to fill into the weight class just fine. And I mean, he's just it's been one of his biggest battles for his career when he's been undefeated. He's done a lot of catchweight fights. He's tried to make it down to welterweight once. He's gone up to middleweight. I think that the sooner he just accepts he's a middleweight, the better, though. Fighting out in New Mexico, Duke City MMA for the gentleman, Jake Fuller, now 5-0, and won his last fight out by the clean knockout against Tristan Vines at the undefeated LFA card, 2.5 minutes in. Fight before that was at middleweight against a decent opponent, 3-0 Miles Amos. Really good fight there. Ended up kind of dragging Miles deep into the deep water in the third round, tiring him out and locking in that choke to get the win. So I think it did show that Fuller can kind of have an advantage at pushing the pace at this weight class, and has the ability to finish late on. Miles Amos was not a bad opponent at all at 3-0 either. Other than that, some catchweight fights, has finished all but all of his opponents except his debut. including his amateur career, fighting on Jackson Winklejohn. I think at times, I'm not sure if that's where he's at for this camp or not, but he has been there. At times fought on the New Mexico scene, training at altitude, taking on Bruno Asis, the experienced 11-5 jungle fight representative from Brazil, only 29 years old, 6'3", 77-inch reach. Won his last 2 fights out here. Reminds me of a lot of guys who kind of are making that ascent onto the Contender Series. And you look at the losses to Andre Muniz on the Contender Series. It was a good fight there. Didn't get submitted. Aaron Jeffries ended up knocking him out. Daniel Pereira at 7-2 with Brave. And then a 6-0 opponent in, so not going to even try to pronounce it, Paulo Costa. 5-0, got knocked out by him. So his losses are only to the top, like really top tier competition here. Finishing a lot of his fights here. I think he's going to be pretty dangerous here. Coming off a win against Shane O'Shea, who was supposed to fight last week or a couple weeks ago, I believe. Didn't end up making weight, though, with Bellator. And so fought him in July, beat Jeremy Holloway, a good experienced 10-4 opponent with Titan. Finished him in the first round of that fight. He's a former Titan FC middleweight champion. He is a Titan FC middleweight champion. Just a lot of really good experience here. I think my boy Fuller's in for a tough night at the office if he can't get that striking going kind of early and get the respect of Asis. But on the other hand, I do think that Fuller has the ability to finish the fight throughout and could piece together a decision even at middleweight, more likely than down at welterweight where he's sacrificed. I'm just kind of back and forth on this one. I'm a big fan of Fuller. I think that might cloud my judgment a little. But I will take Fuller, but I'm not super confident in it.
Yeah, this is a really close fight. I think a good way to play this one is if fight doesn't go the distance, comes out, and it's not super juiced, might be a good look, because I think that Asis has some pretty decent finishing upside if he's able to get good positions on the ground here. And I think that Jalen Fuller has really good finishing upside if he can just test the chin. Because, like you mentioned, I mean, Asis' record is pretty impressive. He's fought on some pretty good promotions, lost to like Paulo Costa, Andre Muniz, Daniel Pereira, Aaron Jeffrey, like not bad guys, but he got chinned in 4 out of 5 of them. So 80% of his losses, like he's getting knocked out. And I think they're all in the first round, I want to say.
Jeffries was 3rd round, I think. Which still, I believe so, but I believe Jeffrey was 3rd round. Yeah. Which getting knocked out by Aaron Jeffrey is definitely troubling. Fuller at 185 hits harder.
Yeah, we've seen Aaron Jeffrey before. Not really the best. Not a guy you'd associate with getting knockouts. And Jalen Fuller is exactly the opposite. He has 3 round 1 knockouts in 5 fights, 1 round 3 submission. And I think his path to victory is pretty clear. Keep it standing, get a knockout. I think he's live to get a knockout even later in the fight.
Yep.
I don't see him having much success grappling here, but I think he probably knows that. I think, this is a fight that's going to finish inside the distance. I could see Asis getting a sub or a ground and pound finish. I could definitely see Fuller getting a knockout. I don't really think Bruno's a bad bet, but I really don't trust the chin with the way that he normally loses. It's the perfect, situation for Fuller to win. So I would have maybe the number even a little bit closer here. I'm not going to bet this unless we get big numbers on some props, but if I got to pick a side, give me Jalen Fuller to get the knockout.
All right, cool. Minus 155 on Fuller. I was surprised by that, by him being the favorite, but a highlight reel knockout, they're not going to, it's going to be tough to pass up on, but he was like a plus 240 underdog against Trustin Vines, which I was all over, by the way, before the weight miss. And, it's just, it's kind of interesting. Fuller's been an underdog in a couple of his fights, and now he's this favorite moving up to a different weight class. So, but it's the 2nd time in this weight class with Miles. He looked very comfortable too with the Miles Amos fight. So, yeah, if you're getting knocked out by Jeffrey recently, it's tough for me to trust you also. So we're both on the gentleman here, half the amount of or third of the amount of experience, I should say. So that is another potential factor here. But moving on to the main event, the title fight, Mayra Cantuária taking on Jamey-Lyn Horth Wessels. here for the Flyweight Championship, LFA Flyweight Championship. This is a really good fight. I think I'm hoping it will be. I've been interested in seeing Jamey-Lyn actually kind of back in there she's been off for over a year now, but 4-0 for the Canadian here out of Squamish, British Columbia. That is just super Canadian sounding. 5'7", 67-inch reach for the sound martial arts representative. Definitely has been staying ready for this opportunity, and there's definitely some very good notable things on her record. First of all, 4 fights, 4 finishes as a pro, 1 rear naked choke finish, 3 by way of her strikes. Last one came against Jamey-Lyn Wong, was 3-1 at the time, so by body kicks in the 3rd round. Has 2 wins over Lupita Godinez as an amateur, back-to-back, so that's definitely notable. Lupita also, just to mention though, was about 500 as an amateur. She really was just fighting. It hasn't really changed as a pro either. She's fighting all the time, but was fighting all the time as an amateur, anybody, anytime. And I mean, I did not care. And but still, 2 wins over Lupita is 2 wins over Lupita. Definitely very, very good striker though. In her off time, she's been trying to get fights. She can't find anybody to fight her. So she's been working on her skills during this time. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think she has to have been working on her wrestling and her grappling because no one's wanting to strike with her. So definitely really legitimate striker. And I think that, one of the things is that just, she's been often not being able to fight, but her 2 wins, her last 2 wins, impressive 3rd round finishes, 2 second round finishes also. So she's not just going in there blitzing. Mayra Cantuária is 9-3-1. Definitely has the experience edge here for the 32-year-old. 5'7", also 68.5-inch reach for the Brazilian top team. Annapolis representative. She's won 6 straight. So she's definitely on a roll right now. Had a good armbar finish of Reika and Miko that I was able to find on YouTube. Watch that. Her losses early on were to Amanda Limoges, who she had a draw with also, and lost to her by knees. I know she was there. Split decision with Sarah Frata, and then lost to Laura Procopio. So very, very good losses, but the wins. She's been increasing the level of competition. Face a fighter with 23 fights and then a fighter with a 9-fight record. So definitely has faced a higher level of competition between the 2 of these and more experience. She's definitely going to be wanting to grapple in this fight of the 2 of these fighters. I don't think she's going to look to stand and trade, while Jamey-Lyn's going to look to stand and trade. This is a really close fight. I'm going to lean towards Jamey-Lyn in this fight. I just think that physically she looks very, very impressive. I think that 5 rounds, I do think that is going to be an interesting test for both ladies, so it could come down to the cardio. But fight starts standing, and I think it's going to stay standing for the most part. I do think that Jamie's going to show a lot of improvement here, and I think she's a legit prospect. Whoever wins this, I think, is in the UFC. Plain and simple.
Yeah, we got 2 flyweight champions in their respective promotions on the regional scene in their home countries. And Cantuária, she's got a pretty good resume. You shouted out Laura Procopio, Amanda Lemos, Sarah Frota. Those are really good competition. 3 women that went on to compete in the UFC. Cantuária is a BJJ black belt. She's a southpaw. Horth has never fought a southpaw before, so something to factor in. She's listed at 5'7" on Tapology. I've seen her listed at 5'5" at the actual fight. So I actually think Jamey-Lyn's going to be the bigger woman in the cage here. And Cantuária might have that 1.5 inches in reach, but I think Horth is going to be bigger. Like I said, Cantuária is a good grappler, and she looks to advance and pass guard on the ground. She does have some submissions. I don't think her sub game is super crazy personally, but she's definitely good at controlling you when she gets good positions and winning minutes down there. Like you said, definitely has the competition advantage too. I'd say far and away. Just fought in July in a title fight. So, good form coming in here, but Horth 7-0 combined amateur and pro. She's got 100% finish rate as a pro, BFL flyweight champion, promotion. We saw, Chad Anheliger, Jared Ravel last week on LFA, beat Lupi Godinez 2 times as an amateur, like you said. Now they train together out in BC. Horth's also been training with Brazilian 1FC fighter Bibiano Fernandez, so that's also good to note. And, she has had relatively low level of competition compared to Cantuária, but she is 2-0 against somebody who's in the UFC. Cantuária has fought people in the UFC. She's 0-3-1. Different levels and different points in their career, of course, but something to note. Obviously, Horth, it's almost 2 years now that she hasn't competed, but she was supposed to fight on Dana White's Contender Series last year, I believe. That fell through. And yeah, like you said, no one wants to fight her on the regional scene. It's hard for her to get fights. Probably wants to make this a striking match. She should be the much better striker here, in my opinion. And she's come out and said that she feels like her wrestling and grappling are underrated, and she's been improving it a lot. In the meantime, you love to hear that because she is big and physical. I think that just that alone will be able to cancel out some of the offensive grappling on the Mayra Cantuária side. And Horth she's big. She's going to look to pressure on the feet and land. Cantuária doesn't really like that type of fight most of the time, from what I've seen on tape. We've seen Horth, get dropped in the first round and rally back to get a rear naked choke. And yeah, at the dog money, I like Horth. I agree with you here. It's going to be another card where I think we agree on all of them. So
all right.
I think that's probably about right. I'm hoping to maybe get a little better than plus 125 on Horth. I haven't played it yet, but I will have a bet on her at some point. I don't want to get too greedy and miss it.
Yeah. I really do like her as the underdog here. I think Mayra is a little more of a known commodity, a little more of the kind of the on paper the better overall MMA game plan. But I'll be interested. I do think that Jamie's been staying ready, training with Lupita now. I've seen Lupita never stops training, so I think that's indicative of that camp. So yeah, we're 6 for 6 here on the agreement. So that will pretty much do it for the breakdown here of the LFA. I actually really do like this card. I think it's a very good card. It's actually well matched up. And then we got the fun little fight in the middle with Royce White. And, who knows? If Royce White comes on and gets a big knockout, we got a new exciting heavyweight prospect. He needs 2 more fights to get on the Contender Series. And then Greg Hardy versus Royce White will be headlining your latest Contender Series fight in 2022. There you go. You heard it here first. But check out Lucky Locks picks. Always there for all of the organizations that maybe you aren't able to see the breakdowns on as much. Really succinct breakdowns, like 13 to 20 minutes, usually a video. And all the information and none of the extra crap I ended in there. But thank you as always, Lucky. I always appreciate doing these breakdowns and feel better on these picks now after talking to you. We've been really doing well on the LFA this year. And on these cards we're agreeing on well over 80% success rate. So let's keep it rolling. I got the UFC breakdown show coming up in about 3.5 hours with Bunny herself. So we'll be breaking down 269, and then tomorrow the weekend of MMA begins. So enjoy it, everybody. But Lucky, appreciate it as always, man. Have a great one, everybody. Peace out.